This is your Neepawa Town Council Debrief for the April the 18th, 2023 meeting. The debrief will highlight the key issues being discussed by Council and provide some context for the conversations and information on what the decisions mean for the town. We start early this week with a public hearing to reveal the Town of Neepawa's 2023 financial plan. The presentation includes a reminder of the town's vision statement and goes on to recap 2022's completed projects, including road paving and the new RCMP building, and budgeted project plans for 2023, including the new nursing training center, as well as items from the recreation plan. We also see several other details from the budget, including the 2023 community grant recipients, and the town proposes an increase of 1.5% to the mill rate for 2023. 2023 is also a reassessment year, so homeowners may see increases in this year's tax bill due to the reassessment, which is done every second year to keep the information current.
Tonight's presentation will start with an overview of completed and proposed projects, then assessments, revenue and expenses, followed by utilities and an explanation of the impact on the ratepayer. I would like to thank everybody for attending the financial plan hearing and to let you know that there will be a chance for questions following the presentation. The Town of Neepawa's vision is to grow Neepawa as a community of choice through enhanced organizational excellence while providing a safe community, being accountable and transparent, and engaging residents and businesses to invest in our community. The financial plan is the tool that the municipality uses to achieve some of these goals. In 2022, our completed projects were the completion of the RCMP building, purchase of a new fire truck, prep work for the new pool slide, the intersection change at Mountain and Commerce, Davidson Street was paved, and the reservoir at the water treatment plant was completed. This year's budgeted plans are road construction. We have many projects in the works. The new hospital road and repairs to Isabella and Hamilton are a few. Remodeling the old RCMP building into a training center, continuing with repairs at Park Lake from the flood, flower beds at the cemetery, and continuing with our recreational plan projects. In Manitoba, there is a basic formula for calculating taxes. That formula has three parts: property tax assessment, mill rate, and dollar levy requirements, or tax levy. So you take the assessment times by the mill rate, which gives us the tax levy. Or another way to calculate is we take what dollar amount we require to maintain and improve services, divide by the assessment, and it gives us the mill rate. This is how the municipality charges taxes. Assessment Services is responsible for all assessments in the province of Manitoba, with the exception of the City of Winnipeg. They follow the Municipal Assessment Act and use market value of sales in the area to come up with your assessment. Reassessment happens every 2 years to keep current with market values and conditions so that the assessment is fair and equitable. In Manitoba, only a portion of the total property is subject to taxation. 45% for residential properties, 26% for farmland properties, and 65% for commercial properties. The municipality then applies the portion assessment by the mill rate to calculate the taxes payable for that property. Our assessment base is made up of 59% residential properties, 32% commercial properties, and 9% is from exempt properties, which is your churches, schools, and hospitals. 2023 is a reassessment year, so Neepawa's municipal assessment increased by around 11%, with about 3% of that being new assessment and 8% due to changes in the market values of properties. With the increase, one mill will now raise $225,377.86 in tax levy. Our municipal mill rate for this year is 22.39 and has increased 1.5% from 2022. The school's mill rate has seen a decrease this year of 8% to 10.103. The educational support levy, which does not apply to residential ratepayers, has decreased by 7%. We have no control over these mill rates as they are set by the province of Manitoba and the local school boards. Your property tax bill is made up of 67% municipal tax and 33% school tax. So only 67% of what you pay is going towards the town of Neepawa operations. Our budgeted municipal revenues for 2023 are around $19 million. The revenue comes from property taxes of 28%, conditional government transfers of 57%, unconditional government transfers 6%, user fees and sales of goods 3%, reserve transfer-ins are 3%, other income is 2%, and permits, licenses, and fines are about 1%. This year's total budgeted expenditures are also around $19 million, which match our budgeted revenues as we have to have a balanced budget. Our expenditures are made up of 5.39% of general government services, which is your office, elected officials, insurance, and grants. 6% is your protective services, which is fire and police. 58% is your transportation services, so that's your public works, equipment repairs, snow removal, drainage, ditches, and street lighting. 3% is environmental health, which is garbage and recycling. 3% is health and welfare services, which is your cemeteries and social assistance. 0.23% is environmental development, which is your planning and weed control. 2% is economic development. 3.5% is your recreation and culture, which is your swimming pools, parks, playgrounds, camping. 14% is your fiscal services, which is your bank fees, capital, and debentures. And 3% is reserve allocations, with a 0.07% being allowance for tax assets. Expenditure changes from last year to this year are seeing increases in all except protective services, recreation, and fiscal services and capital. Most are small increases to more accurately reflect cost, except for transportation services, as this is where we record our flood damage repair. And public health is we've added in some money to do some prep work for the new hospital. Council's approach regarding which organizations are approved to receive grant funding has remained constant over the years. Their decisions are guided by policy, and they measure each request against the established criteria to distribute over $133,000 worth of funding. In addition to supporting very important and worthy organizations, Council wanted to ensure equity and fairness for all taxpayers, even if they did not normally utilize the organizations or facilities receiving the grants. You will note in some instances, Council is taking the position of creating partnerships in the form of exchange of services in order to expand the use of the facility or program with a broader basis. The primary goal is to increase exposure for the organizations and to create additional opportunities for those who may not otherwise access certain programs or services. Council has chosen a variety of recipients for grants this year and are thrilled to support these great organizations. Letters will be sent following the passing of the budget to each of the recipients. This year's capital purchases amounting to around $2.3 million are as follows. Computer upgrades, $8,000. Drainage, $103,000. Training center, $355,000. Lawn equipment, $14,500. Cemetery redesign and columbarium, $295,000. Road construction, $550,000. Pool, $311,000. And pathway development at $687,000. This year, Council will commit the following contributions to the reserves: $65,000 to fire, $15,000 to general, $75,000 to recreation and culture, $100,000 to healthcare facility, and $150,000 to the public works and environment. We've also budgeted to transfer monies from some of these reserves to help reduce the burden on the taxpayers for 2023. Now on to the utility operating budget. Revenues will equate to roughly $8 million. Our revenues are made up of water bill income at 29%, hydrant rentals at 1%, other revenue at 50%, and reserve transfer in at 20%. The utility expenditures make up $8.7 million, which equal the utility revenues, as we have to have a balanced budget in this too. Water treatment and supply is 16%. Sewer collection and disposal is 3%. Capital projects are 75%. Reserve allocations are 1%, and debt repayment is 5%. Expenditure changes have been made to more accurately reflect costs, with a larger decrease in capital, as we have a more accurate cost of what our projects will cost and be completed this year. Reserve contributions have stayed the same. This year's capital purchases amounting to around $6 million are as follows: $10,000 for water meters, $1.5 million for development projects, $1.2 million for well, mechanization, and booster, and $3.3 million for Phase 2 of the wastewater treatment plant. This year, our utility water reserve is seeing a contribution of $100,000 with a withdrawal for the wastewater plant, and the utility sewer reserve is seeing a contribution of $12,000. So what does this mean to the taxpayer? Assuming this was not a reassessment year, the change in the municipal mill rate on a $300,000 home would cost $44.55, or a 1.5% increase. However, this is a reassessment year, which may have increased the value of your home to more accurately reflect the market value, or the price you could ask for if you sold your home. This year, the average change in reassessment is around 8%.
So that needs to be adopted. So be it resolved that we hereby adopt the 2023 financial plan, moved by Councillor Kostelchuk, seconded by Deputy Mayor Parrott. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Resolution, Colleen.
So this will follow up to your passing and approval of the financial plan. This is the bylaw that actually gives you the ability to levy the rates, and we're just asking for your first reading tonight.
Okay, questions? Be it resolved that bylaw 3224-23 being bylaw of the town of Neepawa to levy taxes for the year 2023, to provide for a tax due date and to provide for late payment penalties, be now ready for first time reading. Moved by Councillor Kostelchuk, seconded by Councillor Nadeau. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Manager of Operations Denise Kay talks about the active transportation study that the town is embarking on, and indicates they will have a tent set up at the town fair at the end of May to gather input from residents. Spring cleanup has been interrupted by the return of winter weather, but will resume as soon as the town dries up again.
So we've been working on the active transportation study, and it appears that our consulting firm for that will have a tent set up at the fair to gather some input on the active transportation. We're kind of somewhat presenting to the public at that point so we can get some feedback. I've been receiving some of my work, so we're issuing out some tenders for work. That works, minor housekeeping stuff, nothing too big, nothing too small. Staff has started sweeping streets, but we will be plowing them tomorrow. And then same thing, spring cleanup, it's on the back of our minds there. We're actually getting some volunteer requests of where to start cleaning up, so we'll be organizing those out once things dry up once more after this. And DFA reports, the park lake is still on hold until water recedes, and then they can move back in June and start doing some work again. And I just had an update on the golf course side. There was a little bit of halt on work there, but they can go back and do some work out of the water fringe areas, so they can complete that to ensure that everything's open up and functional for when they open up. That's everything I got. Oh, I guess work has started at the wastewater lagoon. Phase 2 of the construction. We started doing some of the building work had been started a while back now, but we started some of the exterior excavations. So they'll be excavating that stuff out, getting it prepped up for a mud slab, and then start some of the concrete foundation work.
CAO Colleen Sinchishin addresses the ongoing dispute with the federal government over municipalities having to cover retroactive pay for RCMP officers, despite not being included in the salary negotiations. As well, the town has applied to the Art, Culture and Community Fund for significant funds to aid with the upgrades at Riverbend Park, which address accessibility issues and also relocate infrastructure out of flood zones.
Colleen, RCMP, new business RCMP contract policing.
So just a little update, as you're all aware, since 2017 and onward, the town of Neepawa, as do other municipalities across Manitoba and Canada, are obligated to pay the retroactive salary increases that were approved by the federal government to RCMP policing members. So as that rolled out, we found out that we'd be on the hook for $110,000 roughly. What has come of it is we really can't change that process, and the federal government is standing firm that those monies be paid and not be forgiven to these municipalities. The FCM is still fighting that, as are we. So if we get the money back, great or not, but I think we have to understand that we will have to pay for it. We provided for it in our budget. What this resolution is about is though, that the AMM and the FCM are asking support for a resolution to say that when we go to contract policing with the RCMP, that we band together, and then for any future occurrence that might affect us, whether it be financially or otherwise, and have an impact on our policing locally, that we be included in those conversations so that we clearly understand going forward what's going to happen, whether we have to come up with more money or whether it impacts the number of members or how the policing is serviced, and that rather than just locate or have these discussions at such a high level, bring us into the fold somehow, because if we have to pay these things, we really should have some kind of a say in the process. So this is what this resolution is about.
Okay, any questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay, this is a little longer resolution. Whereas the Government of Canada has made the decision in Budget 2023 to make municipalities responsible for all retroactive costs stemming from the latest RCMP collective bargaining agreement, and whereas these extraordinary one-time costs, which in some jurisdictions amount to millions of dollars, will cause significant hardship for communities and residents across the country. We were negotiated without meaningful consultation or a seat at the table for the municipalities responsible for paying the bill. Whereas the municipal governments are already paying a growing share of policing costs, but unlike other orders of government, cannot run deficits to spread out the impact of these extraordinary one-time sums and the limited revenue tools, and whereas local governments will now be forced to make financial decisions that will impact residents, such as cutting essential services, reducing policing levels, raising property taxes significantly, or canceling work on local infrastructure, at a time when Canadians' concerns about community safety and the cost of living are already rising. Whereas going forward, it is critical that the municipalities be proactively engaged in any forthcoming processes related to contract policing to prevent this from occurring again. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Neepawa joins the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in calling on the federal government to commit to ensuring that local governments are meaningful, fully consulted, fully informed, and at the table on issues related to policing costs, given that the municipal role in keeping our communities safe is safe. Be further resolved that the town of Neepawa conveys this support in writing to the local members of Parliament. Moved by Councillor Sisley, seconded by Councillor Gerard. Questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Colleen, Arts and Culture.
So this is looking for a resolution of support for an application to the Arts, Culture and Sport and Community Fund. We have previously sent an application last November into them to apply for our alteration of the Riverbend Park and improvements to the pool area, and more particularly the replacement of the pool building. So we were not successful in that particular round. We've tailored our request now down to reflect a request of 1.8 million, of which we would find half of that funding to go towards that new building. And we could fund that over a period of 2 years if we were successful. So basically, the construction of a new pool building, the importance of that is to address accessibility issues and whatnot over there. When you look at accessibility legislation that came into play a few years ago, and we had to analyze all of the public infrastructure in Neepawa and make sure that we can achieve as much accessibility as we possibly could. So, you know, you can tweak, you can do certain things that doesn't take you to a point of undue hardship. To make the pool building accessible, there's really nothing we can do over there to accommodate people with mobility issues because it's a cinder block building with 90-degree angle turns in there. It would require major either demolition or reconstruction. So the alternative basically is to take a look at that pool building from the perspective of we need to create a facility from the ground up that makes sense and is accessible. So we're asking support to proceed with the construction of a new pool building over there. It would provide greater accessibility for users. It would create a canteen area that we really don't have existing now. It would also create larger change room areas. We can put in the UTR washrooms that can be gender neutral or family friendly. We can have easier navigation throughout the facility. Also, if you take a look at just further into the park there was a building that existed and contained public washrooms and then an area to offer canteen services should an event occur there. We all know that that building sits in the flood zone. When we have significant flooding at Riverbend Park, it is subject to flooding and damages what down there. So the idea as we mitigate based on funding we've also received from the province of Manitoba to mitigate those damages and remove infrastructure at a flood-prone area so that we relocate these things. So the idea being we could relocate those washrooms as part of this new pool building and we'll move the canteen there as well. And then this use can occur year-round over there, 365 days, as opposed to having things that are only open during the summer. So that's the idea. Create one building, move another totally out of the flood zone, make it a 365 type of a service for some portions of that pool building, and if we're successful, we would proceed in doing that starting in 2023 with design and whatnot, and hopefully in 2024 completing our project. And of course, this would also give us a better ability to have all of the pumps and whatnot stored in the existing building that caused us many troubles, just the way everything got relocated and positioned, and the functionality will improve. So we want your support of an application.
Anybody else, any other questions? Resolution be resolved that the Council of Town of Neepawa approve an application to the Arts, Culture and Sports Community Fund for the construction of a new pool building that will allow for compliance with accessibility legislation and provide greater functionality for the revitalization of Riverbend Park as a targeted area for increased leisure and recreational activities on a year-round basis. And be further resolved that should the project application be successful, the Town of Neepawa is committed to ensuring that the municipal portion of the funding will be readily available to give effect to the project. Moved by Councillor Sisley, seconded by Councillor Nadeau. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Also covered were the Handy Van March statistics, a grant to support our Canada Day festivities, appointment of a wildlife control officer for Neepawa, and the regular financial report. You can view end-to-end coverage of the Town Council meeting elsewhere in the NACTV schedule, including immediately following this. If you have any comments, questions, or topics that we might be able to shine some light on for you, please reach out. The number is 204-476-2639. You can email us at nactvnews@gmail.com or reach out on Facebook at Neepawa TV. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.